In this book of Philippians, chapter 1, beginning at we'll start at verse 28. Don't be afraid of your enemies. Always be courageous, and this will prove to them that they will lose and that you will win, because it is of Yahweh who gives you the victory. Shalom, shalom, Akim. Call Allah Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai Ba'ashim Chakurash. The honor to the elders and apostles of the great millstone who rule and teach well. Peace, blessings, salutations to the hopeful elect. To the few sincere Aquas who are listening in truth and sincerity, I say Shalom. I'm the brother Gabar Allah coming at you with another lesson. Alright, and this lesson is gonna, Lord willing, encourage and edify and exhort brothers who are in this fight, because it ultimately is a fight, man. Alright, it's a fight that we all must endure. It's something that we all have to go through, and it's a what do you call those? A non-skippable a non-skippable assignment, so to speak, you know. But just bringing it forth, all right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, because we are gonna have to have courage, and we're gonna have a deep desire, man. Okay, so this is the book of Philippians, chapter 1, and really read this whole book, man, or this whole chapter in the GNT, okay, because it's a really good read. Philippians 1 in the GNT, all right, the Good News Translation. It's a very good read, man. Okay, so I'm gonna begin at Philippians 1, and I'm gonna start at verse. Man, you could really start from the top, man, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna start at verse 20. My deep desire and hope is that I shall never fail my duty, but that at all times, and especially right now, I shall be full of courage. All right, because we're gonna need that. We're gonna need that full of courage, man, because right now we're in a time where we fall short of the glory. We fall short of the faith, or just like not faith, but we fall short of we sin. We go off every day. Real quick. All right, because no matter how much right we can do, it can only have so much. So the book of Isaiah, chapter 64 and verse 6. But we are all as an unclean thing, and all our righteousness are as filthy rags. As we all do fade as a leaf, and our iniquities like the wind have taken us away. Exactly. So no matter how much right we can do, we are not going to save ourselves through following the law. We would all have perished long ago, man. As a people, following the law is not going to save you out of this ministry, or slacky. It's not going to save you out of the destruction coming to America. It's not possible. The scriptures say to rehearse the righteous acts, and that's what we do. We follow the law to the best of our abilities, but we understand that that is ultimately a show of faith. We follow the laws to the best of our ability as a showmanship of faith. We don't follow it because we think it's going to save us. We follow it through the fear of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai and to show him our faith. Okay? Because like the scriptures say, faith without works is dead. And we are all as an unclean thing. So we know that this following the laws is not going to save us. Okay, but it is our deep desire, you know, that we will be full of courage enough to follow the laws and do the things we have to do for Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai. All right, it says verse 21, for what is life? To me, it is Hamashiach. Death, then, will bring more. Verse 22, but if by continuing to live I can do more worthwhile work, then I am not sure which I should choose. I am pulled in two directions. I want very much to leave this life and be with Hamashiach, which is a far better thing. And right, we are all in that spirit. you know, I know brothers, man. I know, I know. I have this mindset where it's like, Lord, just let me be with you, man. Let me rest. You know, let me rest with you, my Lord. Let me, if I gotta perish right now in my sleep, to be with you, man. But ultimately, we understand it's all through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. Some brothers have been granted that wish of rest. You know, brothers who have passed on into the spiritual realm, they're resting right now. You know, and even these wicked people who died, they're resting now in the knowledge, in the know who they are. They're resting right now that they went off. And it's all good. It's not all good, but they're resting now. All right. And when we're in this know, you're like, damn, I want to go rest. Especially right now, you're catching hell, but that's where the courage comes from. You know, you're not gonna fuck around and go off yourself, man. No, you have to stay in this fight. You have to stay in this faith and this ministry, and it takes courage. It says, verse 24 here. It says right here, but for your sake, it is much more important that I remain alive. Exactly, because we're fighting a fight of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. So it is of the utmost importance that we stay alive and in this fight, you know. And it takes a lot of courage, man, to constantly fall short, to fall down, and to pick yourself back up. The scriptures say a just man falleth 7 times and getteth up again, which I'll grab in a bit. Okay. All right. But it says, verse 24, but for your sake, it is much more important that I remain alive. I am sure of this, and so I know that I will stay. I will stay on with you all to add to your progress and joy in the faith, man. All right. So we are all adding to that progress. Okay. We are all adding to that progress of getting in this ministry and fighting and enduring, because we all ultimately want salvation. That's why we're in this fight. That's why we're in this thing. That's why we constantly suffer night in and night out, day in and day out. You wake up, you go to work, you go to school, whatever it is you might have you go, you get home, you study for the Lord, you watch videos, you're watching lessons. Some brothers go watch lessons in the job if your job permits. Okay. Some brothers use their break to pop a lesson in for the Lord, man. That's true dedication, that's true courage, that's true fightfulness, that's true grind, you know. And when the Spirit of the Lord is on you, you're gonna be able to do that, man. I used to be able to wake up an hour and a half earlier, and study for the Lord and, study, and indulge in the scriptures, and go about my day, but nowadays, I wake up, I get the gym out the way, early, first thing in the morning, get the gym out the way when it's not the Shabbat, and I get home and I gotta do what I gotta do, and then I'll study for the Lord, man, and on Saturdays especially, I love serving the Lord. It's something that we enjoy to do, okay, because we are adding on to that faith. We are adding on to the project that is getting the fuck up out of here, man. And it's all the group leader is Yahweh Shai, man. When you get school projects, everybody has to pitch in, man. You know, everybody got to pitch in, and the group leader is Yahweh Shai. The the grader, all right, is Yahweh Shai, man. All right, and the doctrine of Great Millstone has the 100% truth, you know, and the like-minded Akim will follow the doctrine, and who teach the doctrine. All right, it says, verse 26, so that I am with you again, Salakia, so that when I am with you again, you will have even more reason to be proud of me in your life in union with Hamashiach Yahushai. It says, verse 27, now the important thing is that your way of life should be as the gospel of Hamashiach requires. Okay? The Lord Yahushua requires this of us. He requires that our way of life should be around the gospel, revolving around the gospel. Okay? It says, so that whether or not I am able to go and see you, I will hear that you are standing firm with one common purpose, and that with one, it's like that with only one desire, you are fighting together for the faith of the gospel. Exactly, the common denominator being the faith, man. We are all fighting for the faith, for Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, for the gospel, you know? And that's something that we all have to understand, that it is a straight gate. Okay, real quick. All right, because I want to grab that word straight. Matthew 7, I believe it is. Yeah, 7:14. All right, grab it in the KJV. All right, the book of Matthew, chapter 7, and I'll start at verse 13. It reads, enter ye in at the straight gate. All right, and when you go into that word straight, it doesn't mean an actual, straight path, so to speak. It goes into hard times. All right, when you grab the root word, where's the root word at? Um, straight. Uh, no, that's not what I want. Bear with me, Baba Kisha. Okay, because it says narrow, but there's more to it. Okay, there's more to it, man. All right, Slacky, bear with me, Baba Kisha. Where's the Lord willing, hold on, it's probably right here. It says, enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way, which that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. So when you're going into that broad gate, okay, that means it's wide. Okay, the Walmart supercenters. It's very easy to enter in there. A lot of people can go in that once. Okay, because it says it leads you to destruction. All right, that gate that a lot of people are going down, that fall into that rabbit hole. That pretty much are just doing what the fuck they want to do. They don't give reverence to the laws and to the Lord, and they don't try to do anything about it. Says verse 14, because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and there be few that find it. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab that word straight right here. Okay, and I don't know why it's not showing me what I want, because it used to say it good, and now it's not saying it. But when you go into that word straight, it means hard times. Okay, hard. It's difficult. All right, and when you get different translations of this, it'll give it even a better, uh, more in-depth meaning of it. So Matthew 7 and 14 is in the NLT. Yeah, there it is. The gateway to life is very narrow, and the road is difficult, and only a few ever find it. Exactly, man. Only a few ever find it, and the Lord has provided us and given us this wisdom, this knowledge, this understanding to continue to strive for Him. So that's something that we should be very grateful for and very appreciative of, because He didn't have to choose us. Okay, the scripture said that He hath called us, that He had chosen us, so like, yeah, if we be the hopeful elect, I speak as a man. He has chosen us. We have not chosen Him. So it's not of us, it's of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, man. So going back to First Philippians, Philippians chapter 1 and verse 28, it says, "Don't be afraid of your enemies, always be courageous, and this will prove to them that they will lose and that you will win, because it is of Yahweh who gives you the victory." Right, man. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai gives us the victory. He's in control of it all. He understands that we are fighting, that we are in these chambers of darkness, man. Right? These bodies cause us to go off. These minds cause us to go off. Okay, all of it. We are in a losing scenario, right? And that's the beauty of it. We are the underdog. We are in a state where it's impossible, pretty much, you know. But it's beautiful because the Lord is allowing us to envision a reality, a possibility of something that seems far fetched or impossible, man. You know. And matter of fact, let me see if something. The word impossible means not able to occur, exist, or be done. Okay? But guess what? Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai is going to make it possible. Alright? Because for us it's impossible. Us as men, without Yahushai is not able to be done. But with Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushai, Yahushai in particular who died for us, it is all possible. Like the scriptures say, everything is possible. Okay? It says, roughly paraphrasing, verse 29, "For you have been given the privilege of serving Hamashiach, not only by believing in him, but also by suffering for him." Okay, and how do we suffer, man? We suffer every day. You know, you don't think these falling short of the glory plays something in your mind? When you fall short of the glory, whatever it be, it could be lust, could be whatever it is you did. You don't think you feel like shit? you know, of course you feel like shit. That's a natural instinct because we're like, damn, I let the Lord down. Okay, but what you don't understand is that the Lord knows more than anybody what situation we're in, man. Okay? It's like if you it's like if your newborn tries to solve a calculus problem. You're not gonna get mad at your newborn for not knowing how to not solve it. You're gonna be like, it's okay, man. You don't know any better. Yeah, I put you in this scenario. Of course you're gonna struggle. It's gonna be impossible for him to solve it because it's a newborn. It doesn't know how to solve a damn calculus problem. It's too complex for him. Same thing with us, man. We are too. We don't have that in us right now in these bodies. You know, we are only capable of sin in these fleshly bodies. You know, that's all we can do in these bodies. Okay, but the spirit is guiding us towards the spirit, towards Yahushua. All right, because think about it. All around you, you're looking at flesh. You're looking at carcasses. You're not looking at spirits, man. You're looking at carcasses. You're looking at spirits from the left hand side, but you're looking at carcasses. You're not looking at people with the spirit, with the Rachak Wadash, man. You're looking at a bunch of carcasses. That's why when you see someone, you're like, what the fuck? It's like a damn zombie. The Walking Dead, man. You see a bunch of carcasses. That's why you're not really with these people. You butt heads, you know? A bunch of carcasses. You don't really see the spirit in them. They look lifeless to us. Not no type of hope. Nothing. But we have the hope, man. So don't condemn yourself if you're falling short of the glory. And I speak to myself, man, because it's very easy to condemn yourself when you fall short, man. And you're just gonna go under and under and under and under, and you're never gonna escape that rabbit hole, man. It's like an addict, an alcoholic. One of the first things a damn addict has to do is admit that he's addicted, you know? So we have to admit to ourselves that, look, you know what? This is the flesh. It's impossible for us to be keep the laws 100%, man. We're gonna fall short, and that's something that is very imperative to understand and to know progressing in this ministry, so that you don't condemn yourself that much or that hard. It's a good thing to have standards for yourself, and it's a good thing to want to be a good and best for Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, but at the same time we understand that we are up against a whole different fucking the whole world is against us, man. So, it says verse 30, now you can take part with me in the battle. Right, we're taking part with Yahweh Hashem Yahushua in this fight. It is the same battle you saw me fighting in the past, and as you hear, the one I am fighting still. All right, and the Lord is fighting with us, for us, and through us. So I'm gonna end it off right here on Proverbs 24 and 16. For a just man fought 7 times, and that number 7 goes into completion. Okay, because the number 7 means completion. And riseth up again. But the wicked shall fall into mischief. Right, man. Okay, because when you're constantly going off, and what is iniquity? Sin upon sin upon sin. All right, and when you fall short of the glory once, all right, and you condemn yourself, that condemnation is a sin in itself, man. Because you're showing your lack of faith of Yahweh Shai. Because imagine that, man. Yahweh Shai died for us to rescue us, to give us this second opportunity, this grace period, okay, for you to use wisely. Okay, and you're not using it, and you're taking it for granted, and you're not believing in Yahweh Shai, he's gonna make you fall into mischief, man. All right, it says, rejoice not when thine enemy falleth, and let not thine heart be glad when he stumbleth, lest the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai see, and it displease him, and he shall turn his wrath from him. But the point was in verse 16, man. So, Lord willing was edifying, Lord willing was uplifting. I sincerely hope that brothers got something out of it. Okay, with that, Lord willing was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua Ba'ashem Chakorash. The bond yet again to the elders and apostles of the great millstone who run Tishra. Peace, blessings, and salutations to Hopeful Elect. Shalom.